If you're a Pittsburgh baseball fan, then this is the podcast for you. Make your way down, grab a beverage, and get ready to talk Pirates with myself, Craig Toth, and Scott Jackson, two of the biggest fans you'll ever meet. This is Bucks in the Basement.
Now I see the changes in this town. They change, they say one thing, but then the next day it's different. They change, but they don't know what they want. All they do is change. Going left, going right, travel day, travel night. That's where we'll go. No excuses, no goodbyes, no one cries, no one lies. We'll never know.
Pirates season continues to be a little bit of a roller coaster here, flattened out to a degree with Don Kelly at the helm. But, I mean, you go from sweeping a series, winning a series, going into basically the big bullies in your division at this point in time. Pirates fans' emotions, and man, everybody will say it's a marathon, not a sprint, but there's all these little sprints in here, and we're gonna cover and talk about them all. But first, Scott, how you doing today, brother?
Well, I'm good. Looking forward to some weekend baseball, even if they are all in the middle of the day. But it's always a fun experience to see the Pirates play in Wrigley. It's just one of those traditional, old school environments, and hoping for a series win or at least a split.
Yeah, I feel like that the Cubs think that they're like still back in like the 70s and 80s where they didn't have lights, and they forget about that kind of stuff. And it's just like, let's just play them all at like 220, which would be like, 120 our time. And I mean, sometimes during the week, I like that. Weekends usually a little bit busier during the day, and, probably get to sit down and see them. But yeah, I do like that kind of like the old feel of just a bunch of day games, and, let's see what happens. Obviously, I mean, we don't break down each game as it goes. The Pirates, lose a little bit of a heartbreaker here again. I'm pretty sure we can go with what the storyline is going to be. The strong start and the offense can't get things going enough, to score more than 2 runs against, the potent Cubs offense. But I mean, for me, there's just a lot of other, stories and storylines that can be talked about that we had kind of like, planned or at least talked about a little bit before recording tonight. For me, I mean, I think the biggest storyline for people outside of, Cutch's home run, which we will get to, is probably Carmen Mlodzinski being back up here, not like as quickly as he is, but in the role that he is going to be set in at this point in time. Everybody saw it, Carmen Mlodzinski promoted, and, people start losing their minds. Number one, calling for Bubba. Number two, we already know what he did up here, all this kind of stuff. He's better in the bullpen, and kind of seems like that's where he's going to go, at least for now. Earlier today, Alex Stump spoke with him, and, he said, there was really no discussion about, these conversations about being a starter. Everybody knows what he wants to be. He said it during the offseason. He says it again. But they just basically said, we want our best pitchers up here at the major leagues, which baseball team wouldn't want that? And that he's going to do, kind of what he's told to do. And not saying that he can't work his way back into that starter's role, actually performed kind of pretty well down in AAA. We all know what he does up here, which is pitch well for 3 or 4 innings and then have like that little bit of an implosion inning. But I mean, yeah, Carmen Mlodzinski up here. You got Mike Burrows up here. You got Braxton Ashcraft up here. And it's a lot of guys with the starter pedigree, but also have, back of the bullpen, long man relief profiles in them as well. I mean, every single one of them So I mean, it's going to be to a degree here like a three-headed. I mean, still prospect monster to a degree. Carmen's been up here, has a little bit more experience than both of them, but guys that can fill different roles, and you're going to have a lot of innings to pitch here for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting timing, interesting situation, given everything that's been said by Charrington, and also we know that Mlodzinski has stated wanting to be a starter. But you have to try to win baseball games. But also in the back of my head, I keep thinking, is this a move to get Mlodzinski to the major league to, in essence, showcase him for the trade deadline? You're going to run into a log jam in the bullpen and the rotation together. You can only carry a certain number of pitchers at any given time, and the prospect wheel is going to keep turning, and more guys are going to start coming up, and so you can't keep everybody forever. And yeah, there's going to be trade, and we know Heaney's going to be gone. It's a foregone conclusion. I firmly believe that Falter will likely stay. With 3 years of control, he's just entering his arbitration years. I think that there is definitely a possibility to get these guys up to the major leagues, get them showcased, and then even if it's not Mlodzinski necessarily, though I would think he'd be the most likely candidate right now. Maybe the way you fit him and Ashcraft, or even Burrows if he gets hot, one of those guys could become very attractive to a contender or someone who is willing to give up some prospect capital and hopefully a bat like the Pirates so desperately need.
Or they could just go with, my plan and my dream is to just have Mlodzinski be the closer of the future and maybe move some other pieces. But I can definitely see where the thinking is that, I mean, everybody knows that, it'll be mentioned by, national pundits, local people, and everything is that, you're dealing from that position of strength. I mean, even when they traded Ortiz during the offseason, you know, Charrington had said that, you don't want to turn that into a weakness, but if you have all of these guys that are pitching in similar roles, all these guys that, like I said, do have that starter pedigree. Some have been a little bit more successful than others in that, but also, have pitch profiles that, kind of gives those teams that flexibility. They have a lot of control. They're young. So, I mean, it's going to depend on, kind of what you're looking for. And like you said, and like we've talked about, and everybody kind of knows, it's like, okay, who's your, 1 year guys? Although, Charrington threw us a curveball last year by, not trading Aroldis Chapman. Uh, that was definitely weird, and that's something that we've talked about and don't want to bring back up as to, why you didn't do something for him. Obviously, I mean, in different situations this year, if David Bednar's pitching like he is and has been since he's been recalled from AAA, maybe does Aroldis Chapman get dealt? Because, I mean, with the way he was pitching, Aroldis was one of your other main options. Obviously, Dennis Santana came on towards the end of last year after being acquired. But yeah, I mean, that could have, put that in there a little bit because you are trying to win games. But yeah, if you have a bunch of guys that can play a bunch of different roles, it makes the trading of certain players not harm the overall, I guess, goal or scope of the team. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to watch. And it is weird because I think I said to you, people say, well, Charrington had just said that we wanted to be down there and he wanted to be a starter. Well, he gave his little out, if everybody was listening, is that like, but obviously things can change. We didn't see it was going to change this quickly, but I mean, people get like so tied up into wanting to, nail down everything that either the manager or the GM or the owner or whoever it may be says, and that thing is gospel, but then say, well, you can't trust a single thing they say. You got to watch what they do. Well, then why was it made such a big deal that he had said that and now he's bringing him up? Because things do change. I mean, you had Kyle Nicholas up here who unfortunately, also in the same vein, you know, of the Burrows, of the Ashcraft, of Mlodzinski, that could be a guy that, could be that close down guy, could be a long relief guy, has been shown to throw for multiple innings, hasn't been performing well. So you just plug that with another guy that can do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We can't. We have to be flexible. I think that that's something we've seen with Donnie Kelly as the manager. He's not as rigid as it seems like Shelton was, and so yeah, let's fly by the seat of our pants a little bit here, and within we have a larger plan. But yeah, if we need to take a detour here or there at the last minute, then yeah, we need to be open to that.
Yeah. And if Donnie Kelly's going to keep pulling guys after 4 1/3 and 5 1/3 innings, you kind of need some long relievers in there. I'm not saying he's making, the wrong decisions with what he was doing.
Hmm.
And if you have those arms and you have, it seems like the Pirates go in these times where it's like they have these stretches of like 13 games in a row, and then they'll have like 2 days off in like 5 days or something. It's just very weird how the MLB schedule works. And with Cherington, he has these guys, and if they have options, it's just kind of like, that carousel and rotating it. And on this one, like, honestly, I'm happy that Mlodzinski's back up, and if he's in a bullpen role that he actually became very successful in last year, and has shown this year that he can give you 1, 2, 3 good innings, like that makes the team better. So,
Yeah.
I know that I do like some of like the ins and outs of like what goes on with a Major League Baseball team and why decisions are made and different things like that. But for me right now, it's okay. This decision was made, and this is where it's going to move from here. And I honestly believe that, Burrows starts to struggle, Ashcraft could be thrown into that role. If Ashcraft struggles, then Mlodzinski could be thrown into that role. But then you also have guys like we thought that maybe Ashcraft, just from what was shown, that he was going to go like the 2 to 3 innings, but then is, brought in for that 1 inning appearance. So, you call them these bulk guys, and they're built up to be that, but given the gameplay and what's going on, they don't always have to be that.
Let's do what we have to do to win baseball games, because ultimately that is the goal. Sometimes that can be forgotten when you try to develop prospects and things like that. Yeah, if there's a piece that fits over here to win a game that today, then that's great. And then if things change and you need to move them over into this other position, Dennis Santana coming in, the sixth inning the other day, he's even if he's in a role as a setup man, that's not a traditional place to do that, but that's what was needed to win that baseball game. And so that's what Donnie Kelly tried to do. And so yeah, that's that flexibility. And just because, and Charrington might say, yes, this is how we're going to do this going forward, and he believes it 100% when he's telling you that. But circumstances can change even hours later to then make that an invalid point. So it he has to show that flexibility, and they're here to win baseball games. So let's use whoever, however, so that we can do that.
Yeah, and I didn't know if I wanted to go here this early in the show, but you bring up Santana, and I think that's been like a discussion at least out there right now is the Santana and Bednar, let's call it trade season, trade talks. There's obviously going to be interest in both of them, especially if they're kind of pitching as well as they are. We've already seen rumors out there, that there's been some interest in IKF. And for most of these 1 year guys, there's definitely going to be interest. The way that Adam Frazier has been playing, there's definitely, I would say, some teams. Um, he was with a competitor last year, a playoff team last year. So, and for those playoff teams, he will be playing, maybe the bench role that he was brought in to be for the Pirates, but he's shown pretty valuable to be that guy that can bounce out to the outfield and different stuff. But I mean, we see how teams get desperate at the trade deadline. They always need arms. They always want arms. And the relievers and the guys that are closers on, quote unquote bad teams, setup men, because Dennis Santana could be a setup man, could be a closer. It's something that's gonna be, I feel like, discussed for the next month and a half here. Um, I feel like people think when these trades get brought up or trade discussions get brought up that it's like, okay, well, these trades are going to happen like within the next week. And then there'll be like a couple trades that trickle in the middle of July. And then like 15 trades happen within the last hour on, the trade deadline, which we looked it up. It's, July 31st at 6 p.m. this year. So, yeah, I mean, we'll be getting trades still coming through after that time like we did last year. So, I mean, but I think it is definitely kind of worth discussing just at least a little bit as to, the Pirates in previous regimes have been able to, kind of flip setup man. They have been able to flip closers to be able to build upon those teams and just kind of like instantaneously replace them with the next guy who will have his theme music played, throughout the park as they come in. I mean, we've watched that, our entire lives with, a Jason Grilly. I mean, God, the Giant Eagles around here filled up with grilled cheese shirts with his number on it and different stuff like that. So, I mean, Santana is obviously cheaper. Bednar is going to be due a little bit more money. Bednar is pitching well, hadn't pitched well, most of last season. Santana just started pitching well in the middle of last season. So these are like just two very interesting candidates to me. In my mind, I mean, it's not even like a controversial take. If I could, I would see if I could trade them both. I mean, that's just my honest opinion. It's not even one replacing the other. You just have to hope that like one of my other plans comes to fruition of like an Ashcraft and I don't think you're ready for that yet. So it's like, I wish or hope that we could trade them both. But I mean, I can't see how the Pirates hold on to both of them for the rest of the season. And if they do, at least one of them's getting traded in the offseason. I mean, that's kind of the way it's going to go.
This kind of makes me think of what we talked about last week with IKF and how he is more valuable to the team than whatever you could get for him. And I think that Santana is more valuable to the team both this year and next than whatever you get for him. Bednar, yeah, he's bounced back enough that I think that you can get something of value from him. And I think that with the proven track record, you're going to get to the point where you're going to have a playoff contender that is desperate to secure the back end of their bullpen, where he may go and be a setup man somewhere, very likely. But I think you can get something of value if you dig your heels in. But I think that Santana is one that I think he should stay. And I don't disagree that if you do trade them both, I do think that they can fill that, especially in what is already a lost season. So it really doesn't matter who you have in the back end if you're not going to win anything. But I do think that the value that Santana brings for specifically next year could be worth keeping him around.
Yeah, and the other piece is that I mean we talk about, and it's like I said, I hate having these types of conversations, but it's the financial flexibility of what David Bednar is going to be owed versus what Dennis Santana is going to be owed. And if they're both going to perform the same role and they're both only under team control for one more year, then that could be the tilting point in that direction. To kind of free up some of that space, and that's like the weird thing to me is, I mean, we're talking about like these little bits of trades, and you notice at least with Cherington, and like I said, I don't know Cherington's going to be here if he's not going to be here, but I know I would almost guarantee he's going to be here for this trade deadline. And all the trades, at least, starting at the last trade deadline, he traded equal value, at least money wise, for equal value back. When you make the Spencer Horwitz trade for the, Luis Ortiz, it's like kind of like the equal money back. And it's like, can we maybe trade David Bednar and what will be more money for him for a guy with, maybe more control and on a lesser salary and keep Dennis Santana around? Because it's not like all of a sudden the Pirates next year are going to have like all this more money to spend. And like I said, I hate to kind of think that way, but it's like, I mean, David Bednar, not that we had like it wasn't like completely, I guess it was a little bit of a realistic conversation, but it was like you were at least tilting on the fact of like, when the arbitration numbers came out, like, do you go that high? Like, obviously you're going to offer lower, but like, I mean, for what he had done last season, it was like, man, that number's getting pretty high. If he pitches well till the end of the end of this season, like I'll be happy for that. But if you still have him around and he pitches well, for the rest of the season, has that little hiccup, goes down, like that number's only going to go up. You have Keller's number going up. You have Reynolds' number going up. Key's number kind of, flattens out and stays the same. But yeah, I mean, I hate that we have to have that type of discussion, but it's like, and then you also are, with Bednar, to me, it's like, okay, you have a guy that pitched terrible at the beginning of last season, went through like, at the beginning of last season, then pitched better and then pitched horrible again. Now he pitched bad again. He's pitching really well. Like, it's like, okay, when's that other shoe going to drop? Like, is he going to be able to get this back together to do this for, 2 seasons in a row? So to me, like, I don't know. Like, I'm happy that he's back. I'm happy that he's doing well. But I mean, with these relievers, it's so stinking fickle. I mean, you get Dennis Santana off of, the waiver wire. You get David Bednar as a throw-in and a trade, and they turn into like 2 of your better relievers. So, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, well, if they're doing well and you can get something for them before they get really expensive, I'm pretty sure you could find another guy on the waiver wire or a throw-in as a trade that you can maybe turn into something.
Yeah, the replacement value and the ease of replacing it does kind of play into that. It makes you uncomfortable because have we really seen where they move on from both of the guys, both the closer and the setup man at the same time? Usually
No.
there's the succession. Yeah. You have one that moves in for the other.
Yeah, we'll trade Bednar at this trade deadline, and then we'll trade Santana at the next one. I mean, that's probably what would be the more likely scenario. Yeah, I mean, it's the more likely scenario, and that's just kind of where I go with, okay, I mean, with the Bednar thing, it's like, yeah, just if he's pitching well, and I can't even go back on what I said and what we said during this past, is that was kind of the goal. Can we get Bednar once they signed him? It's like, can we get him back to what he was and make that trade? Or I'm going to be here at the beginning of next season saying, well, they did it 2 years in a row. They had Chapman who was pitching well and could have gotten something for him, and they had Bednar who's pitching well and could have gotten something for him, and they didn't. And it's not a guarantee that those trades are going to work out, because I mean, I know that people would say, well, who would trust Ben Cherington to make that type of trade? Well, I mean, trade Rodolfo Castro for Bailey Falter, and that kind of worked out fairly well. I mean, traded Charles McAdoo for IKF, and for what IKF has provided this season. Obviously, last season, not what you were looking for from him, but I mean, to me, like, still turning out to be like kind of an okay trade. So, I mean, I would hope that you could get some sort of value back for that. But like I said, that's a discussion that probably isn't going to, really, come up too much. I think there's more pressing stuff. you looking for coverage of all 4 major sports leagues? NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL. Look no further than Sportsvival. At Sportsvival, they are dedicated to providing quality sports analysis, up-to-date news, and original content with a focus on draft and prospects, analyzing how teams are built and how franchises evolve through their strategic decisions. Without sports, how would we survive? Sportsvival, proud partners of Bucks in the Basement. Something that you wrote down, you took some notes on to, over the past couple of days is kind of like the injury situation with the Pirates. I mean, specifically, I'm looking. I was at the game on Monday night and basically had to explain to everybody that was looking and said, "Is that a new like bullpen catcher out there that's helping warm Burrows up?" Because they didn't even know we had another new catcher that was kind of up there. Bart has started his rehab start, but an Endy with the elbow and different stuff. But I mean, Scott, what's going on the injury front here beyond and adding to what I kind of put out there?
Well, the Endy thing was really what had me looking to see if there was any update on, because that was just concerning. He threw down during warm-ups and then came out of the game, and it was pretty obvious that it was his arm that was hurting. So, based on what Todd Tomzak said yesterday, that it is, some elbow related issue, but he's going to go see a specialist in Los Angeles later this week, and so they're saying that it is not related, according to early indications. It's not related to the Tommy John surgery that he just got back from. So that is a relief, but then again, as we know, that for those first opinions are not always the gospel. So we'll see what happens when others look into it. And yeah, the other notes I just made were some of the longer term ones. Like you said, Bart started his rehab. Oviedo threw a live bullpen, so he's marching back. Moretta threw an inning on June 10th with no issues. Holderman is going to progress the long toss. My thoughts on Holderman notwithstanding. And my willingness to move on from him. Mesa starting a throwing program this weekend, and Lawrence will also begin throwing this weekend. So, I liked Lawrence and the way he fit into the bullpen configuration, so I'm excited to get him back. There's another guy that could potentially be your back of the bullpen. If he's not hurt, does that make Santana more expendable to go with Bednar? So
and what about the money man? Bring the cheese, Money Moretta. I mean, the guy was like the fireman during that time. So I mean, like I said, if there is a lot of time for that to kind of work itself out, but the Endy thing, like to me, like that's probably like the most concerning. I mean, obviously the bat was something that was going to push him in there, but he is a very good defensive catcher, but wasn't able to really show it a lot this year. I kind of go back to one of his first like series when he was catching, and I don't know if you remember this. He threw a wild ball like down past the third baseman and kind of like shook his arm out a little bit. Mm-hmm. That's the thing with like these injuries. It's like that's like I don't know if it's the weird thing to me is it was like okay, well the injury was with his arm. But we're just going to focus on catching right now, and then you kind of put him out at first base where his arm is a little bit more protected, but then we're still going to have him catch. So a guy like it I thought of like something weird is I thought of like Little League Baseball and like my son's teams and stuff like that is like we can only like a lot of the pitchers also like to catch, but you can only have them pitch so much and catch so much because they're still throwing the ball out to the pitcher every single time. So like, it's like if you've pitched 2 innings, you can only catch 1 inning or something. So it's like, and him throwing down, it's like there's still going to be that, that torque and different stuff on the arm. So it was almost like a Oviedo coming back from a Tommy John or something, not to the same degree because you're not a pitcher, but And when
Yeah.
you're a catcher, you're still at risk for that different type of stuff. So that's one that, yeah, I mean, pretty much right now, Henry Davis is getting his run. Uh, and I mean, I was looking at, everybody, like, I think what everybody's kind of doing is like, okay, putting in May 8th, the day that Donnie Kelly started, and, kind of like what does the stats look like for different players. I mean, Henry Davis coming in tonight was I think it was like a 95 WRC plus on Fangraphs. So, I mean, with the defense that he's been playing, like obviously he's going to be in there. Bart hopefully is progressing and coming back. So, I mean, it's going to be that type of tandem, but you don't want to see. We always said like, it's better to have have more than have less. And with Endy going out, if God forbid one of the other catchers would go down again, you kind of see how that kind of happens, that you have a Brett Sullivan up here. And it's nothing against Brett Sullivan, but I mean, it basically took like a few injuries for him to make his way up here. And it would normally have been Jason DeLay, if we hadn't, let him go. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be an interesting situation that they're going to have to kind of decide on, the way things are going to go when Bart comes back. Is Bart now the backup catcher and Henry's the starter? Like I said, I titled this, they have some tough decisions to make. It's just like, well, you have, like you talk about, Moretta is going to be coming back at some point in time. What are you going to be doing with him? Then you have all of these other bullpen pieces, and how is that going to work out? I mean, there's still a lot of interesting stuff going on here as we ride the roller coaster and as we see the team drop one to the Cubs. And now, of course, the season's it's off again. Like the season was on. Like after the Philly series and the Marlins series, the season was at least a little bit back on. But I'm guaranteeing you that most of the stuff that comes out tomorrow morning will be the season's back off again, because we can't beat the mighty Cubs and we have no offense and different stuff like that. But before we kind of like hop out of here, I do want to say congratulations to Andrew McCutchen. And I can't believe that this is even like a debate on, and I guess I can't believe it, on X and other social media accounts, that I think Bob Smizek said, is this even really historical? Like he came into third place. It's not like he took over first place. Like, why is this such a big deal? And there's people that are saying, like, why are you comparing McCutchen to Clemente? Like, no, you have a guy who's on your team, who's been with your team forever, and arguably maybe should have been with the team for his entire career. We wouldn't have Brian Reynolds, but it's argued that he could have been. Like, broke a milestone that a guy who is one of the faces of your franchise set years and years and years ago, before many of us were born. So yeah, it is kind of cool when that happens.
Wonder if that is a product of some of these guys having been around for so long and seeing so many players come and go. And we have as well, but Cutch is more, in our wheelhouse. Um, and he was the face of the franchise for the last successful run. And so that puts a special place. He won an MVP, but any time that you can compare to some of the greats of a sport, and especially someone who's as beloved as Roberto Clemente, it's a big deal. There shouldn't be a question about whether this is historic or whether this is important. He passed, you know, possibly the greatest player in the history of the franchise in a stat that is a highly revered stat. Now, he himself said on the radio pregame today, if Roberto played at PNC Park, then the numbers are going to be way different. And so that shouldn't be lost that he played all but a couple of years of his career at Forbes Field, this cavernous uh, ball field. So yeah, the home runs were harder to come by, but that's not to put a damper on Andrew's big moment and his big accomplishment. He's right there in so many of the Pirates franchise record books with all these Hall of Famers, and he's a guy that means a lot to the organization, has given a lot to this organization, given a lot to the city, and so let the man have his moment.
Yeah. And we watch a game where it's all about counting stats and counting things that are going on and when people pass different things. We saw Roberto's boys there who are obviously there waiting for him to break it at some point in time so if it means that's the other thing is like if it means something to them, then yes. I mean, why is there even this discussion? I mean, we just a couple months ago when the Surfside sign went up and people were saying, well, let's ask like the Clemente boys what they think about it, and obviously they weren't like the happiest about it. So like, why were you there to congratulate Cutch? Because it meant something to us that we could pass that along. Like this team means something to us. So respect that. Like that's the weirdest thing to me is just like for people, I don't know if it's to be, the devil's advocate for everything or whatever it may be, but like I just thought it was so weird. Like I thought this was just going to be like this 100% across the board because of what Cutch means to the Pirates. And I mean, maybe that was just my mistake, is that this was just going to be like, this is a very cool thing. But obviously it wasn't for everybody. But for me, like when Cutch came back, I didn't know what he was going to be for this team. And he's proven me wrong. He's performed above any of the expectations that I had for him. And I mean, you could say there's a guy that's just kind of like padding stats for his quote unquote Hall of Fame case or whatever it may be. But no, he's like legitimately contributing, and for him to pass a milestone, on any like list within the Pirates, whether it be, I don't even care if it's walks, I don't care if it's like bases, I don't care what it may be. Like I said, if you follow a sport that counts stats for everything, that when somebody passes somebody, especially when you're getting into like that top tier of that, like if he was like, oh, he passed somebody so and so for like 11th place on it, like it's not like they were making a big deal about it at that point in time. They were just kind of putting it up. But like from now on, when you're watching a broadcast or if you're at a trivia night or you're doing whatever, it would be like, well, who's the top 3 home run hitters in the franchise's history? And you put that little thing up on the screen. Like Andrew McCutchen's name's going to be on that. And to me, like that is pretty cool.
And the home run, like your point, it won the game for them. It
Yeah.
wasn't just a meaningless home run. It was a 3-run homer that ended up winning the game. And I'm sure that it ties in, especially when you're hearing a lot of these people that are a bit older. It is a player who was a hero of their youth
Yeah.
being surpassed by a player in the new generation. And as time marches on and it slows for no one, it's going to keep moving. And there's going to be a day where Andrew McCutchen gets passed by, and we're going to have fond memories of McCutchen, and it's going to make us think of our younger days. I can't say my youth because, I was out of college by the time he debuted for the Pirates. But so it's not like I was a little boy or anything like that. But you'll think back, and it's just a reminder of our own mortality as we see our heroes get passed by.
I'll be the old man yells at cloud.